whole watershed pays for these capital things. And I noticed the consultant went throughout the province and looked at other examples. It was obvious that most of them, they go back to the assessment. What I didn't quite understand was the catch-20, what I call the catch-22. It said that the municipal act, you could use it, right? But the Drainage Act don't, because it opens a can of worms. So I say, why do we continue to use this catch-22? The watershed drains water. The Drainage Act deals with drainage of water. And the Drainage Act hasn't been revised since 1971, but it's been going since 1851. And it's a fair way of assessing the water that goes down the watershed and the payment thereof to any capital works. So is it just because it takes so long with the engineering, or is it something that the Conservation Authority hasn't dealt with enough?
Well, I guess the Drainage Act is, even though it's outdated, is very good at some of the things that it works with. The problem you run into with a very large watershed is every landowner is going to be assessed, and every landowner has a say.
Yes, I understand that.
And so, in a big project, you can spend millions in the appeal process, and that's one of the biggest issues.
Okay, it's a simple, okay, and I can understand that. So further to that, then, in the next section in the report, on page 27, R72, it said, the phase 2 cost sharing, ICON is suggesting that, and I'm not sure how this works, would they look into it, or Alec, would you look into the whole idea of the watershed, not under the Drainage Act, but the watershed looking at more than 10% share on it? Because as you well know from 85, we won't revisit the history, but we made a delegation from the Sanquit about the Parkville Dam assessment, which in fact was well, basically it was a watershed thing, but we paid for it down here, and the farmers were assessed down here. The ones who were getting the damage paid for the water up from the upper watershed. That's a fact, and you know, we don't have to discuss that. So are they suggesting in that other part that phase 2 cost sharing, that they would look into that in a little bit more detail and give the board of the Isabo a better argument about them increasing their share?
I guess the possibility of phase 2 would really look at things like what you're saying, the upstream watershed area, but it would also look at the benefits to the people that actually get flooded when there's an ice jam.
Got all those arguments.
Yeah,
yes.
and sort of the benefits to the local area, that type of thing. So I guess it would look more in depth at how you might cost share it. And one caution, I did talk with the consultant when they went through their examples of other cost sharing. A lot of those examples are more appropriate for erosion control projects, flood control projects. And I asked the consultant whether he had found any information that specifically dealt with ice problems. Because we know Durham is a famous place for having Fresnel ice problems. Belleville's another area. There are a few areas in the province where there are specific ice-related problems and damages. And I don't think they ever approached those specific authorities and the specific people to ask the question, how is that shared? And you know, I talked to him and he said, well, if they went to phase 2, then they'd come back to me and say, who are the people? And then you would find out specific to ice-related problems, how is that shared out in other areas?
Okay, so further to that, Alec, one more and I'll be done. So further to that, the fact of the matter is using the examples they were using and the one that they used of ours, which was Armstrong East. East is an erosion-style project, very beneficial to the ratepayers of the area, whereby flood proofing, which has, or ice jam and flood proofing because of ice jamming, has to do with the base mandate of the Conservation Authority. Correct? From, we'll go back to 1947, right? Basically, we're talking about flood control.
Right, and well, the basic mandate of the Conservation Authority was flood control and erosion control.
But flood control first, right?
Well, I guess it's usually said first, but I treat them as equal. I think they're both equal.
But in terms of flood control versus erosion control, you know, adds to those arguments about individual benefit, right? I mean, the argument made in it is a really good report. What I still go back to is that sharing of the water that comes down. reality is that is a true view of that water coming down. I know we've been outvoted on that watershed for eons, right? So that we won't get into, and we have our good rep right here. But so they're suggesting to look into that a little bit more detail with the second phase. Timing-wise, that second phase would be sooner than later, or?
I guess it would, at this stage, it's really up to council, more or less, if they want to pursue it in that second phase, and it's about another, the consultant's fees are about $11,000, and then there's some of our fees, so it's probably another $13,500. Then I could let the consultant know, they could go to that stage, and I'm guessing probably about 8 weeks to do that part of the study.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Elman, please.
Okay, I think John was asking all of the questions around the Drainage Act, but just to get it in my head. I guess it's just that it's the cost. There's no guarantee that a petition would even go for one thing, because it's so massive. And then the engineering cost, because wouldn't you have to redo the whole schedule of assessment then?
I'm not in favor of it.
Yeah, okay, no, I'm just like, you have
Based on
to,
the engineering.
you have to redo the whole schedule of assessment, correct? And that would be astronomical, likely from an engineering.
Well, it would be costly, just because of the sheer number of people involved.
Right, okay. And then even if all of that was done, then still the appeal to a tribunal, and so there's just too many ifs with that particular situation. Then with water and erosion control, this is an opportunity for one-time funding if we went that route via the Conservation Authority.
Right.
Then there is that option for a grant, which would be just a one-time to dredge the 4 areas.
Yeah, and then the sort of ongoing maintenance after that doesn't qualify for that water
At
erosion
all.
control fund.
And then, now it says 50 to 100,000 for the ongoing maintenance, and, or was it 50 to 100 or what? Yeah, 50 to 100, is that, so a kind of a bulk, that's pretty wide.
Yeah,
What do you
I'm
think,
thinking
Alex?
it shouldn't be that much.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing it regularly, and thinking about, the river does change annually,
Yeah.
but, you know, if you've got a program set up, and you're already doing some dredging in the harbor area anyway, with the boat slips and that type of thing, so you'd probably be able to spot dredge, and I wouldn't think it'd be that much, but I can't guarantee it.
And I guess then with none of these, there's no guarantee.
No,
Could you tell, what is the silting thing? Literal drift.
That's along the lake shore.
That's along the lake shore.
Yeah, but so the literal drift along the lake shore is the wave action moving the sand down the beach.
And just one more question, just about an actual maintenance program, that's, it says somewhere here that a maintenance program would be about $5,000 for debris and that kind of thing, and that's recommended regardless of going with an option or not.
Well, they're saying,
Or you do the dredging and then you have this.
I guess the maintenance idea was an alternative. So rather than
Okay.
doing any dredging, you could look at it as it would range from, at the low end, you would have a formal program that
Okay.
if a tree floats down the river
Okay.
and lodges in the middle of the river, you have a way to get it out rather than just leave it there. And it could go as, in that same option, is sort of working within the floodplain regulations and even looking at trying to get people to flood-proof their homes so that while they may flood, the area around them may flood, their home wouldn't be.
So this is really kind of a third option.
Or, well, yeah.
Or not, another,
Another option, yeah.
the other option, we're
Right.
looking, the recommendation is the water and erosion control grant and moving through with the Conservation Authority, taking. those
That
in
grant
contact.
would probably only apply to the dredging.
Okay,
It's pretty
Okay.
narrow and specific.
and this would